Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Why Leviticus? This morning we're going to read from the beginning of the third book of the Torah. And the question is, why this book? Of all the books of the Torah, I would say it's the one we are perhaps the most apologetic about, which is pretty powerful when you think about it. Genesis, Bereshit. Someone says, hey, do you believe the world was created in 6 days and then God rested on the seventh? And we say, well, maybe. Could be the case. Maybe we have to redefine what we mean by days, and there's some values we can get out of the story, but yeah, Bereshit. Exodus. A great God took us out of Egypt. 10 plagues fell on the Egyptians. Do you believe in that story? Oh, of course. So important is that story that I'm going to relive that story in 1 week and make sure that I focus on every single detail. I'm going to re-eat the food that we ate when we left Egypt, the matzah. Leviticus. Do you believe in that story? Well, we don't do sacrifices anymore. That's a former time. That's not for us. Hey, do you see the difference in the third book compared to the first two? When Ismar Shorsh decided to get rid of a part of our liturgy where we hoped that we would return to the sacrificial system, nobody complained. Okay, no big deal. There was no separate services. Some people saying, well, this idea of returning to the sacrificial cult is really important for us, and we're going to make sure that we worship separately. No, there wasn't. Maybe a few people raised some voices, but in the conservative movement, there was very little tension in that liturgical change. When we decided in the liturgy, by the way, to add the matriarchs, that was a really big revolutionary change. What were the matriarchs? Well, the patriarchs, maybe they talked more to God, I'm not sure, but we've got to really, really think this out, and everyone should have separate prayer services so that everyone can express the liturgy according in a way that works for them. So, why Leviticus? The Hebrew name is Vayikra. What is the importance, what is the relevance of this third book? What is it for you? What do you think? Diana?
I think the whole book, there's a whole section on like the holiness code, and in a way, to me, it's about like real life, like things that happen. People make mistakes, people have transgressions, and they talk about either communal transgressions, individual ones that are done bishgaga, unintentionally, or bamezi, on purpose. And that what's kind of the remedy for this, knowing that people are going to mess up along the way. And how do we still become part of the community? Do we have to leave for a little bit and come back? What do we do to stay together and to be this valuably kudosha, like God's holy nation?
Okay. Diana just gave us a long list for Team Vayikra. Fair enough. One, it gives us a pathway for what do we do when we make mistakes. The instruction that Leviticus gives us is there are offerings that we put forth, the chet offering, or the offerings of sin, that allow us to reconnect. Gives us a pathway to come together as a community. There's communal offerings that we do, and there's holidays. And you hinted that there's this idea that when we engage in these types of processes, we are embarking on a path of kedusha, that holiness is a big part of our identity, and Leviticus offers a pathway for that. Really good, really good. Thank you for that. Anyway, yeah, Michal. Wonderful, wonderful. So there's great heroic stories that, led to the birth of our people, the birth of our world. But what about the day-to-day when we have to live together? I think you said the reality. And Leviticus tells us there's going to be reality. There's going to be a way we're going to have to interact with each other. There's going to have to way that day-to-day we talk to God and connect to God. So Leviticus roots us, as you said, in reality.
I actually meant it in the sense of this historical reality that we are similar to some people who lived a long time ago, but different.
Very nice, very nice. So it roots us in historical reality as well. Fantastic. I feel like this is a really hot mic. I'm really sorry. Anyone else? Yeah. So Leviticus details the sacrificial system, which is how we connect to God. And it is from the format of sacrifice that we build the system of prayer on, right? So it gives us a way of connecting to God. You said something else about the metaphysical piece. You want to say it one more time? I didn't hear it. Mm-hmm. Ah. Oh, I like that. Okay. Fair enough. So what was great about Leviticus is that it gave us a tangible way, right, of connecting to God. And prayer is a little bit more abstract. Fair enough. Okay. It's interesting, by the way, that we poo-poo that tangible piece. Like, well, we don't do the tangible anymore. We just offer prayers of the heart, right? And there was some power in that tangible piece. Anyone else? Well, in thinking about why Leviticus, there was a podcast that I listened to today. This week. I promise you, I don't have to offer a chet offering for it. It was this week. You can check my computer login. And it was a Dennis Prager podcast, and he was dealing with the question of why anti-Semitism. And he quotes a rabbinic idea that I actually think lends some meaning to why the book of Leviticus. And he was asked, again, why anti-Semitism? What do you think is the origins of anti-Semitism? And he says the rabbis trace it to a specific moment in our history. And there's a great section of the Talmud where they say, what is the Hebrew word for senseless hatred? Sin'ah. And they connect it to Sinai, Mount Sinai, the moment when God gives us God's Torah. And for Dennis Prager, this was, in his words, the birth of judgment. We now had a standard. We now had an ethical code. And for him, the world did not like the idea that there was a people who brought that standard, right? And then the world had to live with this idea that there was good and there was right and wrong. There was good and evil. And the system of accountability caused us to be very uncomfortable. Therefore, we wanted to root out that source. Others wanted to root out that source that caused judgment in the world. Now, what I read out of his message, and I think there's a lot of truth to it, and I want to apply it to how we experience the Torah as Jews. I think the Torah definitely puts forward ethics, laws that we are accountable for. And when we meet those standards, it's truly wonderful. We feel that we are not only doing the right thing, but I am fulfilling the words of God. I am at one with God. This eternal force of righteousness in the world is either being channeled through me or I am connected to that source. But what happens when we fall short? And the truth is, we're all going to fall short. Let's say the rabbis, they number 613, there's probably more. But as we know, no one keeps 613 mitzvot. What does it mean then when I don't follow one of the divine commandments, one of the expressions of goodness in this world. What it means then is that I am apart from God. I am that this godly force is asking me to do something, and I'm saying, that's not me. I'm recognizing there's something that maintains a distance from God. It could lead me to feel alone. It could lead me to feel limited. It could lead me to feel small. And when you look at how this idea of a Torah impacts our people, Exodus ends not on the best of terms. We really struggle with this idea. And if you're thinking, yeah, maybe I'm thinking if you're thinking right now that there's a moment in your life where there's a command that you didn't follow and you could do better, you're not alone in that. The people of Israel, while we're getting the Torah, they're building the golden calf. And what follows after that, okay, we get instructions for how to build the tabernacle. But you could easily read into Exodus this feeling that we get when you've recognized you've been called upon something that you've done wrong and you feel guilty, and then someone says, okay, well, do this, and you're pretty much doing it because you're out of shame. Okay, I better build this tabernacle because, wow, was I totally filled with sin? Was I so guilty because of that choice that I made? Is that really the foundation that we want to build a people? And yet, part of what makes us special is that we do have an ethical code. We don't just think that being good is a nice idea, but goodness is linked to eternity. Goodness is linked to the overall purpose and order of the universe that surrounds us. So it's a worthwhile goal, but is unbelievably challenging to maintain. And Exodus doesn't leave us much when we fall short. Which brings us to Leviticus. So if Exodus is about guilt, Leviticus brings in this idea of offering a sacrifice, of taking something that is yours and letting go and offering it to another. If Exodus talks about guilt, Leviticus talks about giving. And a great way of understanding what it means to do this type of sacred giving comes from the second verse of the Torah portion. Daber el bnei Yisrael ve'amarta alehem, right? Speak unto the people of Israel and say to them, Adam, ki yakriv mikem korban. When any of you presents an offering. Now the English just says any of you, but the Hebrew says Adam. Now we could be called many different names. We could be called Ish, Isha, we could call Ben, all these different terms. And yet the word Adam is used. And our rabbis pick up on this, saying there's something powerful going on here. And what they talk about is the power of the word Adam and what that means about our relationship with God. How giving actually brings out the meaning of the word Adam. We all know the word Adam comes from Adam, which stems from the creation story. So when God calls us Adam, he is calling us by our shared ancient first name. God is going way, 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 way back and saying, you were my first creation. You were made in my image. And when you take something that is yours and let go of it and offer it to me, you are reconnecting to that very person that I created in the beginning of this story of this world. Adam dwelled in Gan Eden. And Rashi points out that in Gan Eden, there was no possessions. Everyone, in the sense that everything belonged to Adam and Eve. There wasn't a sense of like, this is yours, this is mine. Adam and Eve had everything. And when we offer, there's a sense of letting go of the possessions of this world. That we of course, would not take something that is someone else's, but only something that is truly ours would we offer up. And it hints that God, when God calls us Adam, that God wants us to engage in interpersonal ethics. And on a related note, giving back to God is a way of going back to that moment of returning to Eden, where what was God's and what was ours was shared. I encourage everyone to think about not just your moments of guilt, but your moments when you have engaged in the act of giving, the act of letting go of something that is yours, and then the feeling that brought you after having let go of something that you thought was very important. This is the act that I go through this time of year as I get ready for Passover. Passover, for me, is very much like Yom Kippur, except without a lot of the hoopla that's associated with the holiday. But it's a chance for me to begin again. The holiday, the month of Nisan, is often viewed as the beginning of the year because this is when we left Egypt. And how is it that I begin again? How is it that I let go of the past, the guilt, the challenge, where I came up short, and allow myself to begin anew? Room by room, or closet to garage more specifically, I go through my possessions and I find out what are the things that I no longer need. And at first, it was an old shirt, old pair of socks, and I add those to the donation pile. And this year, actually, I did that, and I didn't have a lot of things that I was letting go of. So I pushed myself, and I found a really nice pair of shorts that I got from Costco that I have yet to wear. And I think it's been 2 years. And I was like, in many years, I would look at this and be like, okay, this is the year I'm going to wear those shorts, and they are going to be mine. But this year, I looked at it and said, you know what? Why do I only let go of the things that are shvachi, right, and donate those? There's got to be someone in this world, right, that is really going to enjoy a nice pair of Costco shorts and be able to get joy out of them that I would never be able to receive. That act of letting go of these items, I find to be so freeing. And it reminded myself that I'm a part of something much greater, that I have powers beyond the muscles in my body and the knowledge in my brain. I have this ability to let go of things that I never thought I could let go of. And in that strength, I see myself as getting a flavor of what it means to be Adam and what it means to be closer to God. So I encourage all of us as we get ready for Passover and as we engage in the reading of the book of Leviticus to see one of its many true powerful ideas, which is the act of giving. And maybe next time we are asked about what do you believe in the book of Leviticus, we don't just say that it is something, that we no longer do, but rather it is something aspirational, that we strive to be able to come up in our own lives of the act of sacrifice and korban, the sacrifice that brings us closer to God and ourselves. And in doing so, we can redeem the third book of the Torah. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Yeshua.